Yes, that's right. Part 2 of the week 1 preview here on the Audible. It's the footballguys.com podcast. It is Cecil Lammey. It is Sigmund Bloom. We're going around the NFL, the second half of the schedule here for our Sunday games, Monday night doubleheader, including it is a Broncos show. We're going to get to those guys in the last game before we get to our ever popular What the Heck Flex. But Bloom, we resume the schedule talking about Indianapolis traveling to face the LA Chargers. Now, a lot to talk about with both teams, but it's mainly about guys who aren't there. So for the Colts, it's Andrew Luck. And for me personally, and the fantasy show last night on the Fan, I got some questions from people and there were some good Marlon Mack questions. Didn't get a lot of T.Y. Hilton questions or anybody else. But with Mack, I feel he's the one least affected by Andrew Luck being gone. Tell me if you disagree, but I'm also not super excited to get Mack in there and super excited to see what he can do. I'd rather take a wait and see approach. How are you approaching this Colts team sans Andrew Luck?
Yes, and that's big, right? I see so many things happened in the last week or so that an Andrew Luck story now feels like it happened a while ago, but it was massive. It was one of the most massive, not just football stories, but sports stories that we've been blindsided by, and we're still reckoning with it, right? Like the Houston trade was... Cecil, would you agree that the Houston trade in some ways is a reaction to Andrew Luck's retirement and the window that opens?
Oh, yeah. That's Bill O'Brien being unhinged and being like, we got a shot. Let's do anything. Trade them all.
Let's go for it. That grand romantic gesture that sometimes gets you put in jail. I don't know. Anyway, so this is a big story. And we have to be open to, again, I'll mention Rich Rebar on the couch this week saying fantasy football is about counterpunching. Fantasy football is about making better adjustments. And the adjustment here is the deflation. Oh, Andrew Luck retired. Now we're lowering our expectations for all of these players in the Colts offense. But what we have to be open to is the possibility that it's going to be a lot better than we thought. It's been pointed out by a lot of folks that the coach is better, the offensive line is better, the weapons are better, the situation is better. Again, kind of irony that Jacoby Brissett gets the stable situation that they never gave to Andrew Luck, which was a material part of how he ended up retired at 29. So I'm not playing Brissett this week, but I'm open to him being better than expected. Let's remember too, the Chargers defense doesn't have Derwin James. That was a addition that really took them to another level. So he being out, two snake bit teams here. With Mack, as you said, enthusiasm level, not great, but still good offensive line. Jacoby Brissett in this offense should at least be functional. It's not going to be an offense that has to work against itself like the Brissett offense we saw in 2 years ago. So Chargers, you can run on them. They got Jerry Tillery, but this is generally a matchup that we target. So a running back 2 flex start for Mack, especially if you think they'll go on the road. This is a team that will have a lot of I think there's unity here. I think this is a family team, and they're going to rally. They're not going to hang their heads, even though they lost Andrew Luck. T.Y. Hilton in a similar situation. We saw the great personal feeling he had for Andrew Luck. He had a great summer with Brissett throwing the ball. Now, he might see a lot of Casey Hayward, but T.Y. Hilton's one of those players that you want to err on the side of banking on instead of fading. The whole offense is less exciting, but we might see a game here where we say this is going to be a top half of the league offense. Jacoby Brissett is Dak Prescott, Midwest,
Right. We'll see what an improved offensive line, which I think is the greatest thing with Jacoby Brissett to watch out for, and with just kind of shift in what they'll do offensively. Again, may not be dynamic, but they're still built to make a playoff run. They're still built to do that, even with Jacoby Brissett there starting at quarterback. On the flip side, you've got the Chargers, sans Melvin Gordon. And whereas the Elliott thing hit this point, right, Bloom? We were watching the Elliott thing. It was like, it's good news, it's bad news, it's good news, it's bad news. Then all of a sudden, what was it, Saturday, when it was like, wait a second, this is going to happen. We haven't got that with Gordon at all. It's been, we offered him 10 mil and that's what we're going to do. And then Gordon's like, let me have a trade. And then the Eagles thing where they almost traded Jordan Howard for him. But the Chargers were like, no, because they'd have to split some money. Like, the Gordon thing is very toxic. He'll have to wait. Somebody will get hurt. Somebody will trade for him, most likely. But right now, we're looking at the Chargers going forward with Austin Eckler as their main guy. What's this do for the offense? How confident are you in your Chargers this week against the Colts?
Not that confident. Again, if we're talking about snake bit teams in the offseason, Derwin James might not have even been their biggest loss. Russell Okung, when's he going to play? Even Dr. Gene isn't going to be able to tell us that with the pulmonary embolism. Now you have the worst set of tackles. See, so I was saying all offseason, the worst set of tackles this side of Houston, but now Houston has Laramie Tunsil. So I guess the worst set of tackles this side of Miami. But the point is, this is bad, right? I mean, see, you're going to see your Broncos face the Chargers team with Chubb and Miller.
Good luck.
Against Sam Tevy and Trent Scott. And other than Mike Pouncey, they don't really have a plus player on that offensive line. I know Phillip Rivers has been playing in bad situations on and off, but I'm lowering expectations here, except maybe for Austin Eckler, because Eckler is the dump off. Eckler is that high percentage target. He's the release valve for that pressure. And Eckler has a chance to come out of the gate really fast. But as you said, with the Gordon situation, we're at the end of the plank here. Gordon can decide to play for $330,000 a year. I don't know if he would be really inclined to do that after what he's gone through. And I still think there's a greater than 0% chance we just don't even see him this year, that there's an understanding that these two parties are going to go their separate ways next year, and let's move on. I mean, they were in for LaShawn McCoy. What does that tell you? If they'd signed LaShawn McCoy, we'd say, well, is Gordon even going to come back to the role he had before? I think we have to question that now. So you hold Gordon in redraft leagues, but what do you have? I don't really know. But what do you have in Justin Jackson? And we want to see how big his role is. Is it closer to 50-50, or is Eckler treated more like a lead back? I think Eckler will break down if they treat him that way. He was actually more efficient and productive when Gordon was on the field, so it might be better for Eckler if Jackson sees more work, even though that seems counterintuitive. Keenan Allen seems okay. But I'm lowering expectations for someone like Hunter Henry, who could be kept in more to block, for Mike Williams, just for this offense to sputter, because Indianapolis's defense is getting better and the Chargers' offensive line is getting worse. See, this feels to me like a 16-13 field position defense-dominated game.
Well, and when you mention family with the Colts, you look at the Chargers, that's like a dysfunctional family.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's the Colts are rallying together and the Chargers may not be capable of doing that. So
we'll see.
Let's see. And let's move on to our next game up in the week 1 preview here on the Audible. It's Cincinnati and it's Seattle. And when it's Cincinnati, I feel like Eddie Murphy on the Hercules, like Tyler Boyd.
Yeah.
Everyone, Tyler Boyd, everything, Tyler Boyd, all the time, Tyler Boyd. Lots of Joe Mixon in there. I could do a dance about Joe Mixon as well. Obviously not excited about pretty much anybody else on that team, but how do they fare going up to the Northwest, facing a Seattle team that's made their own changes on both sides of the ball? Is it as simple as Tyler Boyd, Joe Mixon, yay, all day, or will there be some rough patches?
Oh, it's going to be rough. I mean, and see, did you see Joe Mixon say he plays Xbox with Melvin Gordon and Ezekiel Elliott?
Mm-hmm.
Is he next? Is he going to be the next one that has to hold out to get paid?
Right.
I mean, I'm just saying. We'll see. So you're right about Mixon and Boyd as plays this week, but this whole matchup dimmed for Cincinnati whenever Jadeveon Clowney got traded. And you have Jadeveon Clowney saying, well, now I get to go upfield and attack. They had me dropping into coverage and doing some things that aren't my natural mode. When I see Jadeveon Clowney out there, I think of Predator, man. I just want to give the Predator shout out, because I feel like, did people know about that movie? It was one of the greatest movies of all time. I had this poster on my wall when I was a kid. So I think he's going to be hunting. And he's going to be hunting the Bengals, and the hunter becomes the hunted there. And this whole defense with the 12th man, all of a sudden this becomes daunting. Like you're thinking Seattle defense in your fantasy leagues for week 1 start in your DFS lineups. Andy Dalton, do we see Andy Dalton rise to the occasion without AJ Green, with an offensive line in shambles right now? Is Cordy Glenn even going to play? We did see Giovanni Bernard get paid. And I want to mention that Paul Daner Jr. from The Athletic, a week ago or a week and a half ago, when people were saying, is Bernard going to get traded? Because at that moment, remember, Rodney Anderson looked good in the 3rd preseason game, and it looked like they had more running back depth than they expected. He said, no, they're more likely to extend him. There's that extension. Does that mean Bernard gets more work? I mean, that's not enough for me to fade Mixon this week because just of his volume. But that's something to think about. Remember, Tyler Boyd, less productive when AJ Green was out last year than he was when Green was in. So that's something to watch. Damien Willis, the undrafted rookie getting the start here. Oh, let's see, Auden Tate
Last
get some work.
chance you.
Yeah, you love it. And Auden Tate, he seemed like he was with his last chance with Marvin Lewis last year. He made the team. And Tyler Eifert, how many more chances does he get to come back from injury and show he can do it? He's actually my favorite play. If you're looking for an overachiever in this game from Cincinnati's offense, I think it's a healthy Tyler eifert who usually produces.
We just need to do more shows because I really want to get into the Jadeveon Clowney thing. I know it's a fantasy football preview, but I just want everyone for a moment, and our chat room's fired up. You can react to me about, just think of your boss, right? And think of the good bosses you've had and think of the bad bosses you've had. Now think of Bill O'Brien and Pete Carroll. Because with Jadeveon Clowney, it's always like, well, is he going to stay motivated? Because
he loves football.
Right. You'll go to the facility and he's like not practicing or not there. He does what he wants, basically. Like, now you've got Pete Carroll, and now you've got that team, that fan base, that the structure that Carroll's put in place. It could be very reinvigorating for Jadeveon Clowney. Let's get to that flip side. And there's the flip side. Now I can go Tyler Lockett, who, he's never quite played yet up to his potential. That potential is still there. Now, I did say shades of Antonio Brown to his game when he came out of Kansas State. I still believe that. He's just got to stay healthy. That's the thing with Tyler Lockett. If he stays healthy, is this part of the offense, this size of role, it could be quite interesting and quite fascinating and quite productive for fantasy GMs out there. Now, Chris Carson, Rashad Penny, we got to talk about that. We got to talk about DK Metcalf, who I have as a what the heck flex this week, Bloom. You might have him a bit higher. He might be a regular flex play, right? Because it looks like he'll be on track to play. But Seattle's offense with Russell Wilson against this Bengals team that can be reeling, even though it's week one. Hope springs eternal across the NFL, except Cincinnati. Like, this could be very good for your Seahawks players.
It's true. I think, there was some sort of preseason poll, and they didn't even get a vote as a wild card among all the beat writers. Like, not even one beat writer is sticking their neck out and says, it could be a wild card. So you're right. And this could be a terrible start. I mean, just getting spanked. With Seattle, with Russell Wilson, usually if you're open to playing him, Cincinnati, I expect a Carl Lawson to look really good. I love that player. I wish he was in a Steelers uniform, but they've got some issues at linebacker. Just in general, this isn't going to be a top half of the league defense. Russell Wilson's going to have success. Is he going to have enough success before the game gets out of hand? That's the risk of playing Russell Wilson because it's a low volume pass offense. But that tells you it's going to be a good Chris Carson day. Tells you Rashad Penny's a what the heck flex. And we'll see about CJ Precise, who's healthy for now. Even Tyler Eifert is looking at him saying that guy gets injured a lot. And you got, you have a shot in the dark like Will Dissly at tight end. We know he can make some big plays. Watching Jerron Brown, who's a little banged up. DK Metcalf's a little banged up. Excited to see DK Metcalf, not in my lineup, but if he's on the waiver wire, pick him up to see. He looks like he's going to play. Even someone like John Ursua, I think from Hawaii, who's got that Doug Baldwin game, undrafted free agent in the slot. We'll see what comes of this passing game, but maybe only for a half, because Cincinnati, this is not the start you were looking for.
Yeah, these are not the Bengals you wanted just yet.
No.
We'll see what Zach Taylor can do there. Let's go out of the Northwest, get back to down south in Tejas, Dallas, New York Giants. Next game to preview, starting with the Giants side, and plenty to get to with all of these teams. Saquon Barkley, you took him, you're starting him. This team is down wide receivers. So, nobody's looking to Eli Manning. Should be more of an Ingram in this one because of those injury woes at the wide receiver position and suspensions too. For the Giants, Barkley and Ingram, yes. Anybody else?
No. And you're right that Ingram, you're playing hoping that the volume will make up for the fact that he's the key player for them to defend. I think the Cowboys can handle Sterling Shepard out wide. And Saquon Barkley, he may touch the ball 30, 35 times in this game just because, that's kind of how the Giants are built, especially when Golden Tate isn't out there. Offensive line's a little bit better. They got Kevin Zeitler. But look, this Dallas defense is a good defense now. And really sees, for me, the story in this game is how we had the Eli Manning doomsday clock. I don't know what it's at right now, like 11:54 or something like that. At the end of this game, is it 11:57, 11:58? Is it maybe even close to midnight? And the inverse of that, Cease, is For the NFC East, week one's really interesting because we have two division matchups. We have Philly and Washington and Dallas and the Giants. And the reality is that Philly and Dallas should be the class of this division, should be the teams with Super Bowl aspirations. Washington obviously looking to the future. The Giants looking to the future with their being honest with themselves. So Dallas should be a layup this game. If the Giants put up a fight and this is a tougher game than expected for Dallas, then that's where this one becomes interesting. Otherwise, I just think we're going to see Dallas' defense better, and we're going to see that the Giants' blueprint, especially without Golden Tate, is going to be frustrating.
Frustrating indeed. Now, I don't think there's any frustration. Maybe this is where we turn this into first take, fresh take, whatever.
Yeah.
Football guys take, I've lost all respect. I'll be the Stephen A. Smith of this duo. That doesn't mean you're Skip Bloom. You're much better. But anyway, I'm playing Ezekiel Elliott.
Oh,
I know. Who was it that said like 20 to 25 snaps?
Whatever.
Like yeah, it's like I don't care if it's 10 snaps. They could all be near the goal line. Like
right.
Just I would tell everyone, and I believe most people feel this way, hopefully, like have no fear, less of a role, and okay, just no fear, throw him in there. Cooper's been good to go. They've been planning this for a while, where got the foot injuries recovering from. They've held him out. They've limited him. Now he's participating in practice. This was their plan all along. So zero concerns about Amari Cooper there. I'm not really interested in Jason Witten. I don't have any stock in Jason Witten in my fantasy leagues, but it'll be interesting to see, what he does back on the football field after a year of broadcasting. So Cowboys, Zeke, Cooper, Gallup, what the heck, flex more, probably. How about you?
Yeah, this is fun because for Dallas, you have the Kellen Moore offense. You have the offensive line back together. You have additional weapons. You could see this elevate to a top 6, top 8 offense, an offense that creates more overachievers, including Dak Prescott. And Dak Prescott kind of fits in that Russell Wilson, Lamar Jackson mold this week, where there could be a 30 or 35-point game if the opponent was competitive against those defenses. But will the opponent be competitive enough for Dak Prescott to have to pass more than 15 or 20 times? Yes, play Zeke. Come on. Play Tony Pollard in some situations. He's a garbage time possibility. He's a player that they're going to have a reveal on how they match him up in space and how they use him. He may touch the ball in a Tavon Austin, who's still on this team, fashion, maybe 8-10 total touches, but a la, say, Chris Thompson or Darrell Henderson this week, hopefully. Touches that set him up to be explosive in space, and maybe it only takes 1 or 2 of those to break free to be a worthy flex play. Amari Cooper, as much as there's excitement about this offense, there's trepidation about Cooper. Let's see how he looks. We could feel like he's damaged goods. We could feel like, hey, I got him at a value a round or 2 below where I should have. Let's see how he looks in this game. See if he sees a lot of Janoris Jenkins. Giants have a little problem at the other cornerback spot. So everything is converging at Michael Gallup. Cooper might be more of a decoy or not quite up to speed after he missed the summer. Gallup's had a spectacular summer, right up there with Curtis Samuel and Miles Sanders for just buzz every day out of practice from observers. As you mentioned, you've got Witten, you've got Cobb, just making this offense work better. But Dallas, Cease, we could be talking about them very quickly as a Super Bowl contender or even favorite. And I say bring it on so we can get a Steelers Cowboys 4.
Yeah. Did a bold prediction of the Super Bowl winners last night. I was just asked for an article for the fans website, and I was like, give me the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Give me the Cowboys in the Super Bowl. Give me the Cowboys. I think I picked them to win the Super Bowl. So it was late at night. I was tired, but still, like, it's legit. Cowboys, enjoy it. How about next up? Maybe not a lot of enjoyment in this. Detroit at Arizona, playing that Vance Joseph defense. We're back. Detroit side of things, though, Bloom, it'll be different this year because it'll be so much Kerryon Johnson. Right. If you listen to the show, we're all excited about more Kerryon Johnson, the centerpiece of the offense. It'll be less of Matthew Stafford and the passing game. But because of the matchup, there's been a lot of questions that I've gotten on the air and even on Twitter, like, well, how about a TJ Hawkinson? Like, I waited on tight end. I got the rookie. It's VJ's defense. Like, okay, I can see the pieces that people are putting together in their minds. But for me, Carrion's the only one I can trust, and everyone else, like, it's fine. I don't have any stock in the Lions receiving group or tight end group. How about you, Bloom? It is a very pushover matchup this week. Do the Lions do a little bit more than just Kerryon Johnson all day?
Right. Arizona's offense is an unknown, Cease. The defense is a known. They're bad. They're going to be really bad.
Yes.
32nd in the league, bad. And Patrick Peterson isn't even playing for first 6 games. So it again, stop me if you've heard this before. Do these players, Matthew Stafford, Marvin Jones, Kenny Golladay, TJ Hawkinson, do they put up the points before Detroit? I'm not saying they're going to run Arizona out of the building, because Arizona might put up a fight on offense, but they're going to hold the ball. They're going to put together, and this is why it's not necessarily in their interest to attack downfield. It's in their interest to just grind out 12, 15 play drives, demoralize an already weak defense, and put a lot of pressure on Kyler Murray to produce immediately and maybe press and turn this game into a blowout. It's certainly possible. So you like Kerryon Johnson, and you like your bowling partner. And see, you saw that CJ Anderson's looking for a bowling scene in Detroit now. It made me a little sad to see.
Makes me very sad.
And it's like, oh man, you guys.
But imagine late in game, they're controlling this game.
Yeah.
Cardinals offense doesn't have enough
bowling ball.
I mean, just Anderson could be one of those end of the games, like DFS crazy tournament play, like throw in CJ Anderson, get a late touchdown.
Yeah, absolutely. So we know that Detroit's offense is going to function well. Frank Ragnall's preseason injury ended up being not a big deal, even though there was some fear of that. So this is an offensive line that has some continuity going for it. So success for Detroit on offense. Arizona on offense, on the other hand, the biggest mystery of week 1.
Yeah, and here we go. I felt like you last night, Bloom, in our fan staff league for the hosts. I drafted Kyler Murray.
Woo.
It was late, obviously, and it's only 8-team league. Yeah, I was like, oh my God, 8-team league, please. But anyway, so here we go. And get your popcorn ready, right? And then we're hearing all sorts of things. Like, I've got some Larry Fitzgerald in some of my leagues. Excited to see what he can do in this offense. I think I have a league where I have Christian Kirk. I'd have to go back and check. Too many leagues, too many questions. So there are a lot of questions, and there's a lot of excitement around this team. Detroit has been working on their defense. Matt Patricia, defensive minded. Will we be excited about what we see from Arizona's offense? Will we be disappointed on Sunday?
Well, both, right? I think the answer is both. We're going to be excited at least at some of what we see when they have the ball, but they're probably going to have the ball few enough times to be disappointed by the overall production. Okay. It's possible they may only get 6 or 7 possessions. Any early turnovers or 3-and-outs are going to just be, if you have a 3-and-out, that might be the only time you have the ball that quarter if you're Arizona. So that is the kind of thing that could strangle the life out of fantasy prospects here. So Murray, Fitzgerald, Kirk, they're all my bench this week. We have David Johnson you got to play. And what we're interested here with David Johnson is Cliff Kingsbury isn't married to a specific scheme as much as he has molded what he understands around the players he has. And David Johnson's the best player he has on this offense. So I think that we can point to last year and say it's going to be better than last year. I mean, even if he only gets 6 or 7 possessions, he'll be used in a more interesting and creative way, detached from the formation more, not just running it up the middle. In fact, what I'm interested in this game is how we see Cliff Kingsbury adjust to the NFL, or is it that the NFL might have to be adjusting to Cliff Kingsbury? Does he soberly look at Detroit and say, A'Shawn Robinson and Mike Daniels, Damon Harrison, well, we want to stretch the field out horizontally. We want to make those guys not nearly as important. Sure, they can hold the point of attack, but who cares if we're nibbling at the edges, if we're doing quick passing and we're otherwise making them irrelevant? So can Cliff Kingsbury do that effectively, even if they lose this game in a romp? Because, well, Kyler Murray's going to have to adjust too, and probably in the adjust to the NFL, more than the NFL adjusts to him, at least in this first game. We'll see if Detroit tries to defend him with a mush rush, keep him thinking. I think that's plan A. And otherwise, watching guys like Michael Crabtree and Keyshawn Johnson and Chase Edmonds, Charles Clay. I mean, who knows what Cliff Kingsbury will have up his sleeve in this offense as a weapon that he can make more of, certainly anyone can make more of, than Mike McCoy.
Well, and one thing to watch out for is just the discipline that you play with when you face Arizona. because as much as people like to say he'll revolutionize the game, like football doesn't change. I want everyone to think that, because you're using, look at Sean McVay. Sean McVay didn't reinvent the wheel. He threw in a jet sweep, right? He uses 11 personnel more so than a 2 tight end set in the Bill Walsh system. The system's been around since the 80s. It's 18 and 19 handoff. Now, Kingsbury is different, but they'll still have to execute. And if you are Detroit and you're wowed by all the bright lights, you're going to get torched.
Yeah.
If you're Detroit and you play with great discipline and know that football doesn't change, they're trying to run the same plays. They're trying to dress them up differently. If you understand that, Arizona might sputter, and that sputtering might last all season. Let's move on in the next game up. San Francisco at Tampa Bay. Bloom, when did this happen?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm late to the party. Maybe I'm late to the party, but I was around the 49ers for, roughly a week when they were out here in Denver for the joint practices. Talked to everybody under the sun, coaches, players, beat writers, and it was all Tevin Coleman will lead the way and Breida will back him up. And then lo and behold, first depth chart released.
Yeah.
Matt Breida is at the top.
He's better.
Okay. All right. That happened quickly, but as our boss, Joe Bryant, always says, things change pretty quickly around here, buddy, and stop cussing on the audible. He doesn't say that. We just like to pretend he does. But we still say sorry, Joe, because we don't want to offend him. But Bloom, no offense here with the 49ers and their kind of new depth chart. As we all thought Coleman would be the guy, and now Breida's the guy.
Yeah. And this is, at least we got warning, because we feel like these depth charts are kind of static going into the season, and then they start getting shaken up by performance and injury and other things. And at least they told us, but anyone watching could see that Breida is a better running back than Coleman. And if you have Matt Breida and he's healthy and starting against Tampa Bay, and you're not playing him, when are you going to play him? I know you drafted him as your 3rd or 4th running back, maybe 5th running back, but he's probably your 2nd or 3rd best running back on your roster this week. With this outlook, we've got San Francisco, Jimmy Garoppolo, a little rough takeoff in training camp, but kind of got leveled off there. It's Tampa. Dante Pettis. This is a motivational play, not for Tatum Bell-Cease, but Dante Pettis, what Kyle Shanahan's doing. But I think it means he's urging him to be great, not just be as good as he's been. And Pettis has a groin, so I can watch that. But if Pettis is on the field, you're trying to play him, trying to play Marquise Goodwin, who has been the one steady in the wide receivers among the starters. But the real steady in this passing game is George Kittle. And remember, this is a good offensive line. So there's a foundation here for good offensive play, even if we may see if there's actually a quarterback controversy here. And I guess a quarterback controversy isn't crazy, Cease. We're talking about going first take. You're going to play George Kittle. There's all this talk, murmurs, Cease, about John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan, hot seat, now or never. And that hot seat then transfers to Jimmy Garoppolo. So Mike Silver putting out there, like, is Nick Mullins better? Will we see some sort of change? Do you discount that because that's Mike Silver? I'm curious your thoughts there. And otherwise, quarterback controversy foreshadowing, there's going to be a few, not just the Giants.
I will regularly advise people in the media, like, don't talk trash about other media members, but you brought up Mike Silver.
Yeah. Sorry.
And he went
you
after
can say
my
no
man.
Comment.
Well, he went after my man D-Mac because he's a local Denver reporter. Like, I've seen Mike Silver in action. For some reason, he was at the Broncos preseason finale. I got in the elevator to go to the field, and I was like, oh, Mike Silver. Well, whatever. So here's the thing. I've seen him in action. I know what he does. He makes suggestions, and guys will like, and then he'll run with it, and he's got sources everywhere. Players love the guy. Okay, I'm just going to tell you the real about Mike Silver and, tell you my opinion. Like, okay, there is that hot seat that does transfer. And if you talk to players within that locker room the way that Mike Silver does, and he's very well attached to California, specifically Cal, I think his Cal card gets him a lot of credit with players. But if you're attached like that to players in that area specifically, and you're suggesting like, well, you think Nick Mullins is better? I'm certain there are players that would say yes. So Mike Silver, Mr. Controversy, but guess what? Guy's embedded and certainly has those West Coast connections. Let's look on the flip side in the East Coast connections. Tampa Bay, Bruce Arians, Jameis Winston could put up 1 million points this week. In fact, if you don't have Pat Mahomes, you've got Jameis Winston, might be the second best quarterback out there. Now, that's good news for Chris Godwin. It's good news for Mike Evans, OJ Howard. Bruce Arians doesn't use tight ends. He's got to use this one. And then the ground game, which I'm largely avoiding, Bloom, but certainly excited to see what Jameis Winston can do with Bruce Arians. Because if you just listen to Bruce Arians, you can be great.
You can be. And we're excited to see Bruce Arians back in the league. He might have been dealt a poor hand in some ways with his team. It might take a few years, but offensively they should be good. By the way, Cease, because of my new digs, I have to say Gulf Coast. East Coast and Gulf Coast. Gulf Coast. Tampa's on the Gulf of Mexico coast, not the Atlantic coast. Think about Tampa versus Miami. These are very different cities, right?
Yeah, it's all Florida to me. So
I understand avoid Florida, but
I know. I actually got an email. I'll take you behind the scenes because I do commercials for Allstate, and my man Eddie Pacheco, who's got my back. He's a fourth generation Coloradoan, and I actually had a guy for 6 months email me. It's Coloradan. It's Coloradan. So I had to recut the commercials and not say Coloradoan. So I said the East Coast. You say Gulf Coast though. It's Gulf. Is it Gulf or Gulf?
I don't. Well, see, don't listen to me because I'm from Pittsburgh, and every now and then it bleeds through.
The insert comes out.
The insert comes out. But as a Coloradan, you cared about how you said that. So as a member of New Orleans, isn't quite on the Gulf Coast, but give it time. So anyway. The reason I'm talking about all this is because this is simple. You play Chris Godwin, you play Mike Evans, you play OJ Howard, you probably play Jameis Winston. I mean, if he's part of a late quarterback approach against the San Francisco defense at home, you're probably going to go with him. Watched Rashad Perryman in this game. This is the right offense for him, for his skills, and he'll be on the field enough to maybe make an impact. Although Jameis Winston's deep balls, and then you have the backfield. Not playing Peyton Barber, they can't run the ball. Not playing Ronald Jones, I don't even know if he's going to touch the ball more than a couple of times in this game, except as a kick returner. I'm not necessarily playing Dare Ogunbowale, but I'm trying to pick him up before this game or draft him late. He's the third down back. We saw Jaquiz Rogers had 4 catches or more in something like 7 or 8 games last year. But Ogunbowale can be better than Jaquiz Rogers, and he can grow into a larger role. And when he's on the field is when this offense is going to be in their best mode, right? When they're spreading out the field, when they're in a pass mode, when they're not trying to run the ball, which they have not credibly been able to do for years now. And Bruce Arians is fine with playing a smaller back, Andre Ellington, who we saw on this team before he was cut. So I think if Ogunbowale is the best back, or at least performs the best, we will see his role grow in this one. This is the high-scoring game of the week, at least in terms of over-under. I believe this is one of those games you just break ties in favor of. Get a piece of this game in your lineup.
Do it now. Let's have another Arnold reference. Let's talk about Pittsburgh and New England. Bloom, this gets to be a Steelers show and a Broncos show all in the same show. So Pittsburgh traveling to face Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. The Steelers doing it, of course, without Antonio Brown. We'll get to him a little bit later. And my conversation with Derek Carr and John Gruden yesterday, which was very interesting. But now it's the Steelers moving on. James Conner. I've got Jalen Samuels as a what the heck flex. I love him. Love that ability. Vance McDonald. Who's going to get the Brown targets? I think that's the biggest question that everybody has. Juju's going to do his thing. But if you just look at his numbers, I'm not going to say impossible. Nothing's impossible. I taught my dog how to say I love you. Nothing's impossible, but you look at Juju's numbers, you're like, they can't really grow that much because he's already there. I don't think so, Bloom. If you disagreed, please tell me. Juju's awesome. Juju's going to do his thing. Juju's going to be a top 5 fantasy receiver, whatever. Like, he's going to do his thing, but there's also these other chunks, this huge chunk that is not there that will be distributed to other players. Who are those? Where's that value?
Sure.
And do they do it against New England?
It's a great question. See, stay with me. Don't go to the full screen yet. Because, I mean, the football gods giving us the Steelers and the Patriots in Foxborough in week 1. I mean, this is like, it's on. I mean, open up all the emotional adrenaline circuits for Steelers fans.
Especially because the Sunday afternoon games are kind of...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, some of the early games are fantastic, like Minnesota, Atlanta, Rams, Carolina. Those are some really good ones. So, but see, come with me walk down the path of Steelers honk neuroses. And take a left turn at being able to accurately predict this team based on knowing them so well. This is going to be a triplets offense, man. This is going to run through Connor and Juju. I mean, when push comes to shove in the fourth quarter on third down, Juju. It's Juju, man. Ben's going to know that his best chance of success on any given play is Juju, just like he did with Antonio Brown. And sure, there was Martavis Bryant and there was Manuel Sanders, and there were these players that were the riding shotgun. Do you still do riding shotgun on the Fan?
I don't know what I call my new show.
Maybe that's what it's called. I don't know what I call my new show with Cecil.
I don't know what it is, but let's talk football.
So you got to play Juju, though. And I think Ben's, even if there's interceptions, Ben's just going to keep forcing the ball to him. Connor looks amazing. Connor looks like he's reinvented his body again. He looks like a guy who's just on a path to be the very best he could be in the NFL. We're going to see some more Jalen Samuels. James Washington looked good in the preseason. Vance McDonald, solid tight end play, and might be the number 2 target in this offense. Want to see some more creativity. But again, Cecil, when can we think of the Steelers with Ben Roethlisberger having a creative offense, or using? They would use trips and some different things for some releases that Roethlisberger was comfortable with. But this is not an offense. He's doing jet sweeps and doing a lot of things to try to distract or make a defense undisciplined. They're just going to attack you with what they got, like got the right hand, the left hand, Juju and Connor. This is going to be a great game. It's going to go down to the last possession, probably. The Steelers have a new air about them. Now, after everything that's happened with Antonio Brown, I can buy into the they can be better without him narrative. Because he's as someone who's been through a divorce, I can say it's about getting that bad energy out of your household. It's gone, man. It's gone.
Ding dong. Blankety blankers. Let's move on from that one. By the way, Belichick will take away Juju, or he'll try, right? Because if you're Belichick, and again, doing it and attempting to do it are two different things. But if Belichick does what Belichick does, the voodoo that man has, and he takes away Juju, does that great for Connor? I mean, more Vance McDonald like that. We have to take that into account.
Right.
This is Belichick, and this is also Mike Tomlin.
Sure,
who is not that good of a head coach.
Randy Fichtner. We know
you want to get into neurotic Steelers fans? It's time to fire Mike Tomlin.
Well,
it's been past time to fire him. They're giving him one more chance without Brown and without Bell and all the distractions. It was them, really. It wasn't you. It was them.
Well, we'll see, right? But look, Roethlisberger is basically the offensive coordinator, right? I mean, so that's one of the questions is, what can Roethlisberger do when he's taken out of his comfort zone? So you're right. If you see Roethlisberger as disciplined, maybe more Vance McDonald, like in the playoff game against the Jags. I mean, if that's there, are you taking what's there? If the team is bold enough to put Jalen Samuels out there 30-40% of the time as a tight end, as an H-back, as a second back, because see, this is where, are you listening, Randy Fichtner? Are you listening, Ben Roethlisberger? No. Belichick, many times people said Belichick hates it when you have two backs on the field. His coverage schemes fall apart when you have two backs who can catch out of the backfield, and they have that. Will they do it? This is the same Steelers team that had a linebacker on Keenan Allen. So I'm turning the page and saying they'll have a linebacker, even if it's a rookie Devin Bush, on Julian Edelman, and indigestion during this game.
Yeah, I'll have a Pepto bottle in one hand and a cold pop beer in the other one. I won't have any gnarly barley. What is that, Bloom?
So good. Gnarly barley. CC's, you got to hook me up with somebody. So I'm telling people right now, like, if it's already something that I like, I'm happy to wear your T-shirt and we can talk about terms, But I'll endorse gnarly barley for free. It's the best. There's a lot of good beer down here in Louisiana, a lot, but they're the best that I found. Gnarly barley. It's the skate theme, and gnarly barley's fantastic. I haven't had anything yet from them that I haven't loved.
Okay, wow, fantastic, great endorsement there from Sigmund Bloom.
Free.
Free endorsement, unsolicited,
but maybe not free for long.
But people tune in just to look at your T-shirts.
Yeah, and the hair. I'm getting a lot of comments on the hair. Kate's gonna love this because I don't ever wear the hair down. But
it means you should shower more often.
It means I should shower more often. Yeah.
Tom Brady, his hair is plenty nice as well, not as long and flowy as Sigmund Bloom, but Tom Brady and company. Going this, at home, Belichick, the mastermind. A lot of Sony Michel questions this week and where to exactly rank him and what they'll do. No Gronk, no tight end of note. Lacoste is even banged up in this one. Obviously, Big Ben Watson is suspended. So lots of Edelman. And Josh Gordon's one of those players, and we've talked about this before, like, just throw him in there this week.
Yeah.
This is week 1. And if you're debating, I got Josh Gordon, I don't know, Geronimo Allison. Well, I'm going Josh Gordon in that one, even though I think Allison could have a surprise game as well tonight.
Yeah, I like Edelman. You got to play again. The Steelers they give it up to him, and they give it up to players who work that part of the field. James White becomes interesting because of, again, you're exploiting undisciplined play. James White, a good red zone force, but it is Sony Michel time. He's going to be much more involved in the passing game than he was last year because he's actually in camp. He's healthy, and even though the Steelers are tough to run on, I think you're going to see a different approach, a different dimension to Sony Michel than what we saw last year. Air on the side of playing Josh Gordon's facing Joe Hayden, a little bit banged up, got a new contract, but without Rob Gronkowski, Gordon was pretty central in this pass offense last year. I don't see any reason that won't continue. Demaryius Thomas a little banged up, not sure. And it's another reason to like Gordon from what we could see from the 4th preseason game. He's ready to go. It isn't like last year when he was coming in with a hamstring injury and didn't quite look like himself. We're going to see all that. Brady, you're going to play Brady, I think. I mean, Brady against the Steelers. Again, it's the Steelers neurosis talking, but yes, that's something I want to put a chip on. But mainly just put a chip on after everything we've had wash over us, the amusement park rides we got to ride all day during the Sunday afternoon games, late games. Then we get this as the entree, the main course.
Here we go. Some great games to finish this things out. Well, in the Broncos. Some great games in the Broncos. But a Monday night double header, which I believe... No, I didn't have Houston in the Super Bowl. I'm thinking my Super Bowl prediction last night. I said the Cowboys will win it. But Houston making a push this year to make it to the Super Bowl. You got New Orleans on the flip side. They're different. We're going to get to New Orleans in a little bit, and you tell me if I'm on the right track here, Bloom. But the Houston side of things and the changes that they've made, and Duke Johnson Jr., of course, I don't think Carlos Hyde will do as much. I don't even have Carlos Hyde as what the heck flex. Maybe like I forgot to set my lineup flex, but like Duke Johnson Jr. can do more. He can be a featured back. He always could have been. He just was in a situation where that wasn't going to happen. Think of Justin Forsett. Think of Charlie Garner. Think of any of those type of backs that are a little bit smaller. And Johnson's not actually that small, by the way. But just think of those type of backs who were reserved and then had to wait. And then they got their chance to shine. And shine they did. So you're starting DeAndre Hopkins, of course. Will Fuller's healthy. He's at least a flex play, if not a wide receiver 2 upside there. So, throw that out there.
Mm-hmm.
Your guy Kiki's down.
Mm-hmm. This
leads back to Deshaun Watson, though. People want this to be, and I'm sure the league, I'm sure Rodgers putting in a phone call like, can this be 51-50? Right. This is what I call a Van Halen game. Everybody wants, even though it was Van Hagar, everyone wants a 51-50 game, right? They want that. They want Rams and Chiefs. That's kind of where the league is going, unfortunately, in my opinion. But I don't think it will be this high-scoring game.
No.
Bloom, what do you think?
No, I don't agree. I agree. That being said, one of the biggest headlines from that wild Saturday we had is that Deshaun Watson's outlook is a lot better. Not just with Laramie Tunsil, but with Kenny Stills. And Duke Johnson, he'll benefit from the overall rising tide of the offense here. Duke Johnson's far and away the best running back in this offense. And Bill O'Brien himself gave a 4th-round pick that will turn into a 3rd-round pick if Duke is active for 10 games. So basically a 3rd-round pick, unless the trade was just a total bust. So Duke Johnson is you're looking at him as a running back 2 flex, and we're excited to see how he's going to be used. Again, I'll contend Deshaun Watson gets the most from a fantasy perspective out of the players around him. So these are all good things. Carlos Hyde is like a desperation play, but if he gets goal line carries, one that could pay off with a touchdown or 2. DeAndre Hopkins, Marshawn Lattimore, I mean, that's a must-see TV. Eli Apple's pretty good too. Will Fuller might not be 100% full speed, but Kiki Cutie we know is not 100% full speed, may or may not play. It's a Monday night game. Just leave QT on your bench, and if he goes off and looks good, then we'll all celebrate together, okay? If we lose 1 week because of it, we've got 12 more weeks to make it up before the playoffs, or 11, or however many it is. You play Will Fuller, and maybe not Kenny Stills yet, return to New Orleans. If QT is inactive, then I'd be more inclined to play Stills, but we don't know about that. Stills can play inside and outside. So they did something about the offensive line. They're facing a tough defense. New Orleans is not a defense that we target in fantasy anymore. They're playing in a tough place to play. This city's going to be hopping. But Deshaun Watson's going to rise to the occasion.
Yeah, and that's why Drew Brees and company are going to rise to the occasion. On the flip side, how much different is Drew Brees? I guess that's the best way I can frame
Yeah.
this whole thing, Bloom, because you're starting Michael Thomas, of course. You're starting Alvin Kamara, of course. You're looking to other members of that team as more what the heck flexes, Traquan Smith, whatever, like super deep what the heck flex. So I hear you. I feel you. What's Jared Cook going to do, by the way? But how different is Drew Brees? Because we're all going to think Brees is that guy can throw for 5,000 yards. Does he throw for like 3,500 yards instead? Like, how do you think there will be a difference in Drew Brees? Now, this is home Brees.
Yeah.
It's kind of like road Ben, home Ben.
Which last year got blown out of the water. So
yes,
we didn't even talk about road Ben in that preview.
Right. So now, home Brees.
Yeah.
Is it like a blast from the past, the Brees we all remember and love and know? Or is it new Brees, which is, still efficient, still effective, but not throwing 50 passes a game?
Yes, I'll get literary and say, is it that cool breeze off of the Mississippi with the aromatics of the Delta, or is it the breeze that brings the stench of death, of old age, of things that make you feel like the world's closing in on you? Because every year, and it's going to be, we didn't mention this with Brady, we didn't mention this with Rivers or Roethlisberger, but every year we just pencil these guys in to be the same guy they were the year before. And Eli Manning is someone that we're like, well, yeah, Eli's getting washed up. Well, we might watch a few games this year and say like, not quite the quarterback that we thought he was before. Although I think Brees took a hit on an interception or fumble return late last year, and some people pointed to that as what might have led to some of his struggles or diminished abilities down the stretch last year. I still think the Saints want to be conservative. They want to be balanced. Okay. So Brees isn't a must start. Houston lost Jadeveon Clowney. This isn't as scary of a defense to face, but I think you're going to see a ton of Kamara. You're going to see enough Latavius Murray that he's just a weekly flex. He's not going to be better than a flex if Kamara stays healthy, but he's not going to be worse than a flex. He's going to have a reasonable 12 to 15 touch role more. If it's a blowout win, I don't think it's going to be a blowout win, with some opportunities around the goal line, likely. Michael Thomas, there's a holdout situation that didn't have any drama. Jared Cook, if you drafted him as your best tight end, you're playing him. And we're excited to see the parts of the playbook that will get revived. I think there's some matchups maybe in the middle of the field that they can try to exploit here with Jared Cook. And Ted Ginn's the other name to keep in mind here. I know we want Traquan Smith to happen, and he may happen at some point this year, but still Ted Ginn. And Houston still has a weakness at cornerback, and it still only takes one play, even though Ginn is in his 30s, for him to hit as a what-the-heck flex.
I think Traquan is my version of Kiki Cutie for you.
Yeah.
Like we both know they're talented. We both want them to hit. And it's like, we're waiting. We're waiting. Let's go. By the way, let's go and talk about the final Monday night game, final game in week one preview here on the Audible, the footballguys.com podcast. It is the Broncos. It is the Raiders from Oakland for the last time, which I got sick of those questions. Oh God, I got so. What do you think about playing in Oakland? Okay, fine. You're not going to play on a baseball. We actually had a baseball field question yesterday. Anyway, I talked to Derek Carr, talked to John Gruden, asked him about Darren Waller. I'll get to that in a little bit when we talk about the Raiders side of things. The Broncos side of things, there is this notion by some, and by some I mean fans who are bloggers, that like, oh, well, Rich Scangarello didn't show anything. It's the preseason. He didn't show anything. That first team offense didn't score a touchdown. That first team offense sputtered in the red zone. So don't give me this. He didn't show him anything. Everybody knows that blanking offense. Sorry, Joe. Everybody knows that offense. It's been around forever. It's the Bill Walsh, Mike Shanahan, Gary Kubiak offense. What is there to show? He's going to hide that 18-19 handoff that we've seen a million times on film. It's all that offense is just merely about execution. You know what it is. You know what they're going to try to play action pass you. Well, is it a pass or is it a run? What are they doing? Like, it's the same damn thing. So this whole notion of like they hid the Scangarello, these secret plays, like, no, they didn't. Now, the Raiders offense, interesting. The Raiders defense, work in progress. So you think that Joe Flacco running the offense true to form. You'll see the split between Royce Freeman and Phillip Lindsay. You'll see, of course, Emmanuel Sanders doing his thing. I think Sanders has the best game. It's Sanders against Antonio Brown. Sanders might want, and Sanders, to his point, Sanders always like, we get along great. And then it's like, do you? Do you? Okay. Sanders probably outproduce him, in my opinion. Now, Courtland Sutton, how does he mix into this? But here's the thing, Bloom, and I guess I should have started with this instead of my rant about fans who write blogs. they're looking for 24 points. Okay, we're looking for fantasy points, right?
Right.
If they have a big game, it's 24 points.
Right.
That because with this defense, the defense is elite. Justin Simmons probably gonna have a pick in this game. Justin Simmons probably gonna have 7 picks over the course of the year. Like, this defense is gonna get the ball. They're gonna get turnovers. They are elite. Derek Carr, good luck, because you got Von Miller and Bradley Chubb chasing you down on Monday night. So the defense is gonna hold you down. This offense, if they put the foot on the gas, they'll get 24 points.
Right.
Okay,
right.
So this is not the droids you're looking for. This is not the fantasy assets that you're looking for, merely because a big week for them is 24 points. They'll probably score about 17 to 21 points this week, probably win 17 to 10, something like that, because of that defense and because of this is how they're going to win. They care about wins. We care about fantasy points. They're not going to give us what we want.
They're not, Cease. And by the way, and we're going a little overtime today because it's the first week back and we're comfortable. We're marinating in it. You know, we're soaking in the hot tub that is the relaxation of football, but it's also a Broncos show. And that means sometimes it's an Angry Cecil show. And Angry Cecil is always been a staple, you know? And I think that what you're saying is a warning to be heeded, because over the years you've given us Julius Thomas and you've given us Manuel Sanders and you've given us CJ Anderson, and you're like me, you want to be exuberant, you want to be positive, but this is the Peyton Manning 1 foot in the grave Broncos. Joe Flacco, don't turn the ball over.
Right.
You don't turn the ball over. You did your job if you don't turn the ball over. This is Herman Edwards. Every drive that ends in a kick is a good drive. We'll win games if all of our drives end in kicks, you know, because of the defense, because of Vic Fangio. So with everybody, you're lowering expectations. It's a split backfield. I mean, maybe Royce Freeman, if you think that Denver's going to roll on the road because he'll get to close out the game, maybe. But, you know, they're splitting this. Maybe Phillip Lindsay, if you're saying, I have faith in Lindsay to break big plays more often than not. This is a bad Oakland defense. I wouldn't be shocked to see Lindsay break another 40, 50, 60-yard play for a touchdown. But if he doesn't, it's probably going to be a disappointing week for him. Manuel Sanders, the one thing I'll say here is Flacco always riffs with his new veteran, dependable route-running wide receiver. It's been Derek Mason, Anquan Bolden, Steve Smith, Mike Wallace, John Brown, until Flacco was benched last year. And that's Manuel Sanders now, who looks fantastic. So, yeah, Denver. See, this is, again, it's the Peyton Manning December of his career Broncos. They're boring to watch. Probably the most boring Super Bowl of the last 20 years, but Denver, that's just how they like it.
No, Super Bowl 35 was pretty boring.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Super Bowl 50 was awesome because C.J. Anderson had 90 yards. Anyway, let's move on to the Raiders side. And it was weird that my man Arnie Stapleton from the AP, talk about a great guy and a great reporter, asked Gruden first and foremost, like, what do you do with the drama of Antonio Brown? And Gruden's like, I don't really think it's drama, buddy. Why did my Gruden impression sound like Joe?
I don't know.
There. Anyway,
everything's Joe. Yeah,
everything's Joe. He's the mayor of football guys. But you look at the situation with John Gruden, it's like, okay, I asked him about Josh Jacobs, right? Because I'm personally excited about Josh Jacobs, and I asked him about his progress as a runner, and maybe even more so a receiver out of the backfield. And Gruden poo-pooed my question. He's like, well, he's got to prove it and pass protection and all that. So, I was looking for a hint of excitement from John Gruden. I didn't get that. Maybe he's lying. Maybe he hates talking to the opponent's media, whatever. I don't care, but I'm just telling you what happened. Man, Josh Jacobs, can you tell us in the progress? And Gruden's like, yeah. So he's a little meh on that guy. Yeah. Then I think of this Broncos defense, and I think of Chris Harris Jr., who I talked to yesterday, and Chris got a little mad at me, but we're fine. We're good. Because I brought up that 2015 game when Antonio Brown smoked him for 180 some yards and 2 touchdowns. And then Chris brought up last year's game when he held him to 3 catches. Now, other people, Brown had more catches with other people, but when he was on Chris had a pick in that game too. So Chris brought that up. It was tit for tat. Mm-hmm. Just love saying that. But okay, so it's 1-1. If they do match up again, this is the tiebreaker. Who comes out on top? I think it's Vic Fangio's defense. So again, there's Raiders assets, Tyrell Williams floating around out there, Darren Waller, who asked Derek Carr about, and Derek Carr was like, he's no good. We're not going to throw to him. Ha, ha, ha. Okay, Derek, just tell me. There's not a lot of film on Waller, but he's the all-hype team. And the Broncos let Will Dissly get 100 yards last year.
Right.
The blocking rookie from Washington for the Seahawks got 100 yards in week 1. So don't tell me Darren Waller, you don't talk about DFS GPP play. Don't tell me Darren Waller couldn't be that guy. But think of Fangio's defense, think of how it'll be different, and go, well, I'm not really excited about the Raiders.
See, first of all, you remind me of Dan Aykroyd from the good old days of Saturday Night Live, the art show, remember? And the name of the artist, Tidian. Anyway, look it up, everybody.
Sorry, Joe.
Sorry. Well, no, it's an artist's name.
Oh, okay.
And also, I think you should do a weekly column of how different Denver Broncos are feeling about you, how your relationship is with them at the moment. You know, kind of like a warm, cold, like moving up, moving down. You know.
Well, I'm on Broncos TV twice this week, so they like me for now.
Good. And we'll check back in next week on the Cecil Lammey weather report during the Broncos take. So look, it's funny. You can picture Gruden, like you said, not excited, but Gruden's like, oh, you want to run the ball and you want to play safe field position football. Well, I can do that. And Derek Carr, of course, says, yeah, I can be safe with the ball. That's what I can do. I'm happy to have Josh Jacobs out there as running back 2 or flex. It might be a long night for the Oakland offense. Antonio Brown, I mean, this is like kind of the Arizona offense take where Antonio Brown could have that night that says everyone's saying, see, we told you, don't take him, don't bother with him, trade him in dynasty leagues. Or could have that night to say, see, it's Antonio Brown. It doesn't matter. If Derek Carr's smart enough to know, count 1, 2, and just throw it around Antonio Brown, that's probably going to work a lot. But they have Hunter Renfrow, they have Tyrell Williams. And you mentioned Darren Waller. He is absolutely the pick to click here because, as you've been documenting year after year after year, Denver just cannot defend the tight end. And Waller's coming into this game with his arrow pointing up. So, see, for Denver, this is kind of like for Dallas and the Giant and then Philly. If you want to consider yourself as a threat to KC, and they played KC tough both times last year, but you want to consider yourself a real threat to KC and the Chargers in this division, you should win this game handily.
You should. We'll see if that happens on Monday Night Football. Now we've wrapped up the games. It is time for our ever popular What the Heck Flex. You're looking down your lineup and you just need some punch. Just throw in that guy and say, oh, what the heck? What the heck flex? And I will say on a personal note.
Yeah.
I take a lot of pride that that's kind of in the lexicon now.
Yeah.
Like everybody's saying what the heck flex. And that's true. It's like what the heck, throw him in there. And what the heck flex for me, I brought up a couple already in this show. Jalen Samuels, a what the heck flex for me in that Steelers offense. I want to see, other than Juju and Connor, what other weapons are used. We can talk about Vance McDonald, but for what the heck flex purposes, it will be Jalen Samuels for me. I also look at CJ Anderson, as we talked before in this show. They're beating up the Cardinals. At the end of the game, Anderson gets in and gets a touchdown. I even consider Royce Freeman a what the heck flex. We just talked Broncos, right? And probably for me, Philip Lindsay is more of a regular flex.
Yeah.
And then Royce Freeman's kind of that what the heck flex there. This week at the wide receiver position, we've talked about Jamison Crowder. He's a what the heck flex to me. I think Michael Gallup is more than a what the heck flex, but I want him in my lineup in the leagues that I have him in. So make sure to keep that in mind there as well. Smoke, John Brown against the Jets. Give me Smoke on a deep shot as a what the heck flex. These are my what the heck flexes for week 1, Bloom. Who do you got as your week 1 what the heck flexes?
As usual, we're seeing eye to eye on some of these guys. And this is the easiest week for what the heck flexies, right? Because you drafted your team, and like you said, Philip Lindsay, you drafted him probably as your third running back. He's your flex. But we can easily say, hey, these players you might not have drafted as a starter, but this is a week to consider starting them. And you hit on a lot of good ones. At running back, Matt Breida is not even really a what the heck flex. I mean, just play him, but you probably didn't draft him to start him. Is your 4th or 5th running back. Start him this week. You mentioned Royce Freeman. So there's some players we like because of who's going to get the carries if the team that we expect to control the game controls the game. Miles Sanders or Howard. You did draft Miles Sanders as a starter, but more for his long-term ceiling. And one of these guys probably is going to get at least a rushing touchdown. Maybe both will. Rashard Penny, CJ Anderson we've talked about, Justice Hill, or maybe even Gus Edwards. I mean, I'm not starting him in a lineup setting league, but maybe 1 or 2 in those big money DFS contests. If he's the guy who gets 15 or 20 carries in the second half against Miami, of course, Devin Singletary is an interesting play as an aspirational play, and Dare Ogunbowale. These are guys that if they look good in their early action in the game, maybe they get more action in the game later, or at least later on this month. Now, again, I'll highlight Tariq Cohen for his matchup against Green Bay, maybe trying to get him isolated on a 7th round rookie out there, Ty Summers. At wide receiver, Chris Conley and DJ Chark against Kansas City. And on the other side of that matchup, Mecole Hardman, Rashard Higgins, been talking all summer about this. Curtis Samuel, and I just say Curtis Samuel because, I mean, he's still a 9th, 10th, 11th round pick in a lot of drafts. Play him against those corners for the Rams that cheat, that try to jump routes and might give up a big one. I'll echo Michael Gallup. I talked about Ted Ginn, and also Geronimo Allison in that matchup against Buster Screendor.
Yeah, there we do it. That is a wrap for the week 1 preview here on the Audible. Thank you all very much for watching. Make sure, because YouTube pushes out corporate created content more so than independent created content. So if you like the video, if you comment on the video, chat room, we love you. Comment too, please, on the video and share it if you want to. That'll help the channel grow, and we certainly appreciate that. That's how you pay us back. Be here with us and enjoy this great game of football. And Bloom, isn't that what it's all about? As you and I before the show talked about the marathon that is the season, right? And super excited and all that every single year. But for me, it's sharing this season with you, brother. It's sharing the season with our audience. You know, this, I'm going to go meta here.
Yes.
Bloom.
I was going to do that too, yes.
Not necessarily angry, Cecil, but I'll say this. There are some in this industry that want to be right so much that it takes away their fun of the game. I'm not going to mention any names. I really honestly don't pay that much attention to other fantasy analysts, but I've just seen some stuff. I've heard some stuff where it's like, I told you I was right about it. I hope we don't come across like that. I hope we come across more as just passionate. We love, if somebody hits that I didn't think could hit, awesome. I'm going to learn from that. I'm going to learn more from that than I do the guys that I think will hit and actually do hit. And just sharing the experience with our community, right? We're making these decisions with you. We're starting Michael Gallup together, right? We're rolling the dice on Kyler Murray together. We're doing this together. And I think, and especially in this day and age, the more that we can do together and come together as people, as a community, I don't care if it's just the fantasy football community. I think this is great for us. So as we kick off this season, I just want to thank you, Bloom, for your love and energy. I want to thank the audience for their love and energy. And let's just do this thing, man. This is what's fun about football. There's a lot of heavy stuff that we're all dealing with. We're all dealing with in life on varying levels. There's a lot of heavy stuff out there. When we can share this type of stuff and this energy and excitement, I think it's good for our consciousness. I think it's good for our community. And I thank everyone for the opportunity to do just that.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful sentiment. And I agree. Let's keep our football space, our football guys, Audible space, a positive, supportive space, because that's what we do best for each other. And just to echo from the fantasy football strategy side, as you were saying, Cease, week 1 is more about realizing what you were wrong about than celebrating what you were right about. The more time you spend doing a touchdown dance in week 1, the more you're missing things that you need to come to grips with, because they're going to affect your fantasy season. But see, the message I want to deliver, and it is about people and it is about connecting with people, is that it's great. We made it. Football season, the way that time passes and the way that we collectively experience things during football season is like nothing else. It's what drew us to this, Cease, what drew us to this place. You know, I could go off on a rip here on the little bit country, little bit rock and roll thing of just how people, I think, see us as connected, like as a unit. And we are in a lot of ways, but in a lot of ways we're very different, but we come together to create this space, and we get help from all the great people from our community over the years doing that too. But there are plenty of people in our lives that may, to some lesser extent, care about other things in football during football season. And I'm going to go like Debbie Boone, you light up my life. But there are people that we're like present in their lives, and then football season comes and we're less present. And they probably are very kind about that because they see it makes us happy and they want us to be happy. But every week, football people, let's take a moment out to express or show with energy, with time, with attention, that we still appreciate and love the people in our lives as much during football season as we do not during football season, because none of this would matter without love, without people in our lives. Football is nice. People are really where it's at, Cease. And I think that if people step back from fantasy football, hopefully your experience of fantasy football shows you that. Football is great, but it's the connection with people that is our oxygen.
He's Sigmund Bloom. Follow him on Twitter at Sigmund Bloom. The show is at The Audible. I'm at Cecil Lammey saying thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned. And as always, stay frosty.